Going on, Megan here. All right, so this video is on the topic of nitrogen retention, right? And again, if you're new to the channel, nitrogen retention is simply the reason why you get big. It's the reason why you get swole. It's the reason why you put on muscle. It's your body's ability to retain nitrogen, right? That's what's called nitrogen retention. Again, nitrogen comes from protein, amino acids. The only thing that separates amino acids from glucose, carbohydrates, and fatty acids is simply the nitrogen. That's all it is, right? It's all CHO. Carbohydrates is CHO, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Fatty acids, fats, triglycerides, whatever is CHO. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Amino acids have the nitrogen, so it's CHO plus the N, right? So you need that nitrogen. That's why when you're trying to build muscle, which is a protein, you need CHONN, right? That nitrogen. That's why we eat protein. That's why we eat, amino acids. All right, good. So nitrogen retention is your body's ability to retain that N, right? The nitrogen part. And if it's high, obviously you're gonna build muscle. Your body's able to retain it and use it. And if it's low, then your body's excreting it, right? So you're obviously not gonna put on a lot of muscle. It's very simple. I'm trying to keep it in layman terms. So the goal of a bodybuilder is to obviously increase nitrogen retention, right? Through three things. I always mentioned through energy, right? If you're eating enough calories, your body's going to retain more nitrogen. If you're not, your body's going to break down the protein, the amino acid for energy, so you're going to lose that nitrogen, right? Second thing is obviously through manipulating your growth factors, so your anabolic growth factors, your hormones, your myocyte, your myocytes, things like that, myostatin, all these things, and and you also want to lower the catabolic growth factors. And the third thing is obviously through protein, obviously eating protein, right? So remember, energy, I always talk about the three things you need to build muscle, right? Energy, that's calories, right? Amino acids from the protein that you eat, and obviously the growth factors, right? Anabolic and catabolic, having the right ratio. So that's going to lead to nitrogen retention and protein synthesis, blah, 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 right? Now, the mistake everyone makes when they calculate their macros, and again, everyone thinks I'm against macros. I'm not against macros. Like macros is a great way to make sure you're eating the same thing every day. You're staying consistent to track your progress. It's just when people overdo it. I lose when people overdo it, and ignore the hormones and how the macros affect the hormones. But anyway, so for the mistake that I notice most people make, right, is let's use a basic approach, right? I don't like using this approach, but let's just to keep it simple. Let's say your TDEE is 3,000 calories, right? Let's say your total daily energy expenditure, TDE, is 3,000 calories. That means your body burns 3,000 calories every single day, right? If you just living your life the way it is, you're not changing anything extra, right? Now, what most people do is they take that 3,000 calories and then they do a macro split where they're like, I don't know, 25% protein, and they'll do like, I don't know, they'll split up the carbs and the fats depending on whatever ratio they want. Some will do a 40, 40, 20, all the different splits, right? Now, the problem is if you're doing that to maintain, fine. When you're trying to build muscle, the issue that people make is they take their total daily energy expenditure, they put in the calculator, whatever, they get the BMR, and they multiply it by the activity factor, let's say times 1.2, and they get this figure of 3,000. They take 3,000, right? And then they break it up into some goes to protein, some goes to fat, and some goes to carbs. And here's the problem. And they wonder why they're not putting on muscle, even though they're training hard and eating. And the problem is the nitrogen retention is not optimized. Why? Can anybody see the error here? Just pause the video for a second and see the error with that way of thinking. If your body needs 3,000 calories to maintain, or put on a little bit of muscle based on your activities, and you taking that and you splitting that into protein, keyword protein, carbs and fats, what's the issue here? A lot of the protein you're eating is being burned for energy because you took that protein requirement from the TDEE. You took the protein that you need to eat from the amount of your body needs for energy, meaning to burn, right? TDEE means how much calories your body needs to burn, right? It burns those calories every day. So your protein has to be outside of that TDEE, right? Your protein cannot come from the total daily energy expenditure because it's going to be burnt, right? So your protein has to be outside of that. Your total daily energy expenditure should, mostly be from carbs and fats because that's what you want your body to use for energy. You don't want your body to use protein for energy. Protein is so expensive, right? Protein costs a lot. Your body can use it, but why would you want to do that? Just use carbs and fats are a lot cheaper, and your body is more efficient at using them for energy. You know, protein has to go through a bunch of conversion cycles. So that's the reason why most people are eating a lot if they're training right and sleeping right, whatever, and not putting on significant size in short periods of time, is because literally the protein that they're eating is going straight to energy. And I proved that about 2 or 3 years ago. I made a video where I explained the chemistry behind it, the math behind it. It's very simple. You know, again, I call it the rule of three, right? Your body needs 3 grams of protein, 3 grams of additional protein a day to put on a pound of muscle every month. Think about that. To put on a pound of muscle in 30 days, in a month, right? Your body just needs to synthesize an additional 3 grams of protein. I say additional because it means like after your body used the protein for like, you know, to replenish cells, for your hair, your nails, whatever, all the things for the liver, all the things that it needs to maintain. It just needs an additional 3 grams to go into muscle building. If you do that every day, you put on a pound of muscle every month. Now think about that. How many of us eat like 200 grams of protein, 300 grams of protein, 150 grams of protein every single day, and yet in 30 days, we don't see those size gains? What does that tell you? It's basic math. It tells you that those 3 grams of protein that you need, those 3 grams of extra protein that you need to go into muscle building, don't go into muscle building, or they go into muscle building and get burnt off later on. It's pure math. It's pure math. It's super simple, right? Because again, if you want to do the math in your head on paper, a pound of muscle is about 453, 454 grams of muscle. And if let's say your muscle is 20% protein, right? Let's say you're like a fucking cow, right? 20% protein. You take 20% of that and you divide it by 30 days, right? So that gives you about 3 grams of protein a day to eventually get that pound of muscle. So if you're not seeing those gains, right, assuming that you've been lifting for a long time and you're doing everything else right, now again, you can't grow a pound a month for the rest of your life. I'm referring to people who have not hit their genetic potential, obviously. But I'm not talking about the ones who are just maxed out and can't fucking grow anymore naturally. So yeah, so those people, if you're not putting on those gains, you might want to check your nitrogen retention. You might want to check your macro calculation and make sure that you're not using your protein for energy, you know, within the calculation. So another thing I recommend is make sure that you get your TDEE as early as possible, so that everything that you eat after that will more likely be used for protein synthesis. You know, and it's a fact. It's been proven that it's been shown that the closer you are to your caloric goal for the day, the higher nitrogen retention is. In fact, the more it goes from negative to zero. When you hit your your caloric requirement for the day, nitrogen retention is actually at zero. Breakdown and synthesis are equal, right? So the closer you are to that TDE figure, the more you have a favorable ratio of nitrogen retention. So I hope this video helps. If it's confusing, comment below. I'll answer your questions. Don't forget to comment your question for the next video. Subscribe if you're new. Like the video if you fuck with Team 3D. And see you in the next one.